Welcome back to another Purple Rain report with some good news.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another Purple Rain report.
Yeah.
It's out of nowhere because there was some breaking Ravens news. But first and foremost, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. Follow this guy on Instagram, on Twitter at Sutton Def. Follow me on Instagram at simplyas10.prod and on Twitter at simplyas10. And most importantly,
Mm.
our lovely, beautiful sponsors, Manscaped. All right,
Mm-hmm.
listen, best in
Yeah.
the business. Got
Yeah.
the brand. We talked about it in depth. The brand new instrument tool. However you want. I mean, it's everything. It's an instrument, a tool. You could probably cut the grass really if you wanted to. That's how good it is with all the different inches. But
Talk
yeah,
about it.
Manscaped,
Yeah.
20% off using code PRP and free shipping. And listen, if you don't want to get anything for the face, you talked about it before. The skincare. I mean,
Yeah.
the bag, the shed. I'm actually about to use that shed, so I can't wait for that. And even
Yeah.
some boxers, some nice comfortable boxers. Manscaped
Mm-hmm.
has you.
Absolutely. They got you covered all the way around. Like you said, you can use our code PRP. Save yourself 20% off. Get free shipping.
Yes,
All right. Let me see who we have in the live chat here. First of all, simply as 10, just getting
yes.
the basics out of the way. Come on, guys. Like the video. We already got about 20 people watching live now. If you guys could just like the video. If you're watching this live, go ahead and like the video. If you're not watching this live, you're part of the hashtag replay gang. Hope this podcast finds you in good spirits. Thank you so much for joining the show. We appreciate you. Make sure you leave a comment down below and also like the video. And if you're new here, right? If you're new here, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So obviously we're actually going to keep this one pretty short today, guys. We want to go ahead and hit our points on the head. So first things first, Ravens got a new offensive coordinator, baby. He's here. Todd Monken, Georgia's offensive coordinator for the past couple of seasons. He is now a Raven. Alex, knee-jerk reactions. How are you feeling?
I don't hate it. I'm not gonna say I love it because I wanted a McVay Shanahan guy. I'm obviously biased towards them, but it's really not bad. I think it probably was the most realistic and probably one of the better options. I'll say. If you've watched Georgia football, I know I've watched the CFP past couple of years. Of course, watching George Pickens, I remember I wanted him because seeing him at Georgia, just seeing their offense, they put up 60 points in the national championship. We struggle to score points in the big games. All right. This dude right here, and just seeing that clip on Twitter of him just going crazy after they're up by 20 points against the LSU, he has a little bit of a loose screw in his head. And I actually am in love with that. We haven't
Yeah.
seen that with Greg Roman. We didn't see that much emotion from him when we score. It'll be a nice, just different, a new, fresh, just around the block, fresh. Well, I'll get more into it. But that was my knee jerk reaction. And yours?
You know what? You bring up a pretty good point there. I mean, saying like he gets hype for his players with his players when they score. Like you said, you put it perfectly. He has kind of like a loose screw, and a loose screw is kind of synonymous with a wild card. And I want a wild card as our offensive coordinator, to be honest with you. I want somebody who's going to switch things up. I want to see some trick plays. I want to see creative ways to push the football down the field and get in the end zone. Now, my knee-jerk reaction to this was pretty good once I read up a little bit more on Todd Monken. What I read that really stood out to me the most was the fact that at Georgia last season, right, they had the highest scoring percentage in the red zone in the country.
Mm.
That is something right there. Red zone offense is something right there that the Ravens need more than anybody else, right? Because we have no problem getting down the field, right? I mean, we can run the football all day. We can get, in between the numbers, we're pretty good. Between the 20s, we're pretty good. But once we get past the 20-yard line, it's like we really don't know how to play football anymore. It's really like the offense is just like anemic. It's
Yeah.
stone cold. We can't do anything. So I really like the fact that this guy was getting his offense into the end zone consistently in his last year with Georgia. I know that the college is different from the pros and whatnot, but it's about the principle. It's about that principle. And somebody actually pointed out to me earlier that when he was in the NFL, coaching, right? So with the Bucks and with the Browns, he was, I think, 18th. His teams were like an average of 18th in the league when it came to red zone scoring. But I have this to argue against that. He has never coached a Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a guy who's different from a Tom Brady. He's different from a Baker Mayfield. You know, he has more capabilities than both of those guys. And I only bring up those two names because Todd Monken, he coached the Browns and the Buccaneers, as you guys know. But listen, man, with Lamar Jackson, I'm so excited to see what he can do with his talent. I mean, you see what he did with Jameis Winston, see what he did with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I can only imagine what he can do with Lamar.
Yeah, and going back to those Browns, I mean, yeah, they Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens. That was just this. That's the Browns are the Browns. I'm trying to look more towards the future and just looking at what he did last year. Just some of his stats. I think he passed the ball 49% and ran it 51%.
Yeah.
So we're a pretty close even split. They were 20% explosive pass play, seventh best in all those college football, 8.6 yards per attempt, 16th best, 17% deep passes, 33% play action, 19% screen. And just seeing guys like Des Bryant saying is a great hire when he's been
Yeah, I saw
overly
that.
critical of this Ravens offense for how long? I mean, he was one of the first people to come out and talk about this Greg Roman offense now. It just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Seeing that and just seeing a couple other guys saying that, like, okay, let's get them that receiver to just make this offense take that next step. Man, I think it definitely is one of the better pickups, and I think we have a guy right now who still has some juice in him, saying that, okay, I wasn't the best in the NFL. I go to the college. I took over at the college. I beat Bama. I smoked TCU embarrassingly, like 60-7. Yeah, let me go back to the NFL. And who knows? He's maybe one or two good seasons as an OC away from a head coach. It's crazy, but just thinking about down the line for him, if he performs very well here, he'd probably be a head coach. But him performing well here, I think is the Ravens winning a couple of games in the playoffs because he's taking a team right now with not a lot of expectations. I think as we just want to get win a couple of games in the playoffs. We're not saying take us to the Super Bowl. We just need that just an offense in the playoffs. Like I look at you've watched the playoffs now, like Mahomes and the Chiefs put up scored every single possession in the second half.
Yeah.
They probably scored more points in the second half of their game than we have in the second half of all of our playoff games in the past couple of years combined. We need somebody to take that offense over and just rejuvenate it. And this could be the guy. So I'm behind you, Todd Monken.
Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about in the basically the last third of the season, how the offense was stale and the relationship between Lamar Jackson and his Greg Roman offense had, they had grown old, and things just really weren't working how they used to, So definitely feels good to get like a fresh face in there, and not only a fresh face, but a successful face. I mean, winning, I know college is different from the pros, but having your offense be, that good to win multiple championships back to back, you have to be something. This is a net positive. We don't know exactly what he's going to bring to the Ravens table just yet, but based off of his experience and what he's done in the past, especially in the most recent history, we have every reason to believe that he can turn this offense around. That's why I have confidence in this hire. Now, our guy Dylan, says, I don't like the hire because he ran a more tight end passing centric offense. What do you have to say to that, Alex?
That's fair. We do have Mark Andrews and we do have Isaiah Likely. I think Likely will be getting Likely is likely to get a lot more receptions than he did last year. As for they're still throwing the ball to receivers. I remember watching them in the college football championship. Their receivers were making plays. Now, granted, I didn't watch them all the time, but I think if you're going into the NFL, you got to use your receivers. And I think him being a former wide receiver coach is huge because he knows he has to get these receivers in there. So I don't think it'll just be tight ends. I think he'll definitely be spreading it out, which he has done. He's proved he spread it out. There's that one article we read a couple of weeks ago about how he has spread out the offense and how he can make do in an RPO game. So that is definitely something to keep your eye on as well.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, one thing that I am, looking forward to still this offseason is, well, here's what I'll say, right? The Ravens at this point, they have to go out and invest in a top wide receiver.
Yep.
and proven talent, not even drafting a guy. Go out and acquire some proven talent. I don't care how you got to do it. I know you got to pay Lamar too. Figure it out, DaCosta, because you cannot leave any sort of excuses, I would say, after this next season. I want Todd Monken to go into this season with Lamar Jackson, Dobbins, Edwards, a big name wide receiver, Mark Andrews, Isaiah. I want all of that for him. So there's no excuses this time next year. We're sitting here doing a podcast this time next year, right?
Yep.
I want there to be no excuses as to why our offense couldn't produce, That way we would at least have more clarity. If we go into next season without a big name wide receiver, proven talent, then it could be more of the same just because of lack of talent.
If I can double that behind you, when we
Sure.
got Mike McDonald, what did we do? We had this free agency class. Marcus Williams,
Yeah.
Michael Pierce, Kyle Fuller, tried to go for Zadarius Smith. We drafted Kyle Hamilton. We even got you David Ajabo from where you used to coach at with the Ravens. Please keep that same energy with the offense now.
Yeah.
Go and get Todd Monken, a guy, trade for him. Get him a receiver.
Yeah.
Hell, even if you want to get somebody from Georgia, I could really care. I could care less. I mean, if you're talking about getting a receiver, Hopkins, Mike Evans, one of those two, a guy who is a proven one who can get the damn ball. I mean, he used to coach Mike Evans in Tampa Bay. But support Monken the way he supported Mike McDonald, because I think it worked out pretty good for our defense. Yeah, Sports Game said we got Roquan Smith. Yes. Support this guy the same way you support that defense, because I love the defense, but I want this guy to get a fair chance. All right? Because if you're just going to keep giving him the same old shit at receiver, it's not going to work, and then we're going to get mad at him, when in reality, it's not going to be his fault. It's going to be this neglecting the receiver position for a 15th straight season, it feels like.
Yeah. And it's crazy you say neglecting the receiver position, because the Ravens have drafted 2 wide receivers in the first round, in what, I think in the last 4 years, something like that. Yeah, I mean, you can tell what their philosophy is when it comes to the wide receiver position, the pass catching position. They want to draft a guy and they want to develop him. Unfortunately, we've just never been all that great at doing that. So, if you're not great at something and you've been doing it this one specific way for a long time, maybe it's time to switch it up and make a change and go out and get a proven commodity at receiver, So like you said, Mike Evans will make a lot of sense. Mike Evans was coached by Todd Monken at one point. Like you said, also DeAndre Hopkins. Our guy K-Dog here says EDC is going to work that Hopkins magic. Man, I sure do hope so.
We need it.
I sure do hope so, K-Dog. I really do. How you doing, K-Dog? Appreciate you for coming through. But yeah, so we're not going to dive too deep into the, Todd Monken stuff. We just wanted to cover that. I feel like we covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Looks like a lot of you guys like the hire. Some of you guys, aka my guy Dylan, he didn't really like it so much. What do you think about it? If you're part of the replay gang right now, you're watching this after the fact, leave your comments down below and let us know what you think about Todd Monken being hired as the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. We're gonna wrap with a Super Bowl talk, right? We didn't get to talk about the Super Bowl. That was just the other day, a couple of days removed from that. Alex, how did you react to the Chiefs getting the 38-35 victory over the Eagles?
Well, first and foremost, I like the halftime show a lot. I mean, big Rihanna guy right here, especially that when they met at the EDM, the Calvin Harris Rihanna just never missed. Calvin Harris and Rihanna never missed. But talking about the football, sucks that such a great game had to get talked over about a damn penalty. Dude, I'm just tired of hearing about that. Jalen Hurts is him. Jalen Hurts put his team on his back.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a performance. That's gonna be one of the ones that people are like, remember that Jalen Hurts performance in the Super Bowl? They should have won that. Just their defense sold at the worst time possible. Just couldn't stop the Chiefs. And that's what happens when you have Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league. Just is so damn good and a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's really no debate. The Chiefs are a dynasty at this point. Mahomes is solidified as, I would say, already. I mean, he's on pace to be the GOAT, if you ask me. He's on pace as of right now. But as of right now, I mean, if we're not even talking about being on pace, I think he's a solid top 5 quarterback of all time, maybe even top 3 if you want to argue it. If you want to talk about like actual talent, all things considered, he's
Talent's
better than a
insane.
lot of these guys. It's just as simple as that. For me, I picked the Chiefs going into that game, just knowing that, yeah, I mean, the Eagles' defense was really good. People were talking about them all season. They had, they led the league in sacks, all this and that. Their secondary was going off. Cool. But it doesn't matter. Like, none of that matters when you're in the Super Bowl against the other bad motherfucker in the league, and
Yeah,
that's the Chiefs.
yeah,
Like, I felt like all season the Eagles were just going around punching teams in the mouth and just daring the other team to do something about it, right? They came out, punched the Chiefs in the mouth in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs said, "Okay, wipe the blood off their lip or whatever," and they came back, punched them in the mouth, and the Eagles like, "Oh, what's going
yeah,
on? You guys are supposed to just lay down and
yeah.
die," but that's not what the Chiefs do. You know, Mahomes, he's amazing, incredible. Got hurt before halftime, came back and looked even better. I don't understand that. I mean, the dude tweaked his ankle in the divisional round of the playoffs. That
Yeah.
was damn near a month ago. I
Yeah.
mean, when you think about it, it was damn near a month ago. He's played 2 games since then, 3 if you want to include the rest of that divisional game, and he's won all of them, and he's looked fabulous doing it.
Yeah.
So Mahomes, he's different, man, and that's really all I have to say about him.
That horse tranquilizer must have went crazy in the locker room.
Oh, for
But
sure.
but speaking of like the Eagles, I look at the Chiefs. They had a much harder time. I mean, the Jags weren't really a team you can push over. The
Mm,
Bengals gave them everything they had. On the NFC, the Eagles bye the Giants, no problem. It was over by halftime. The the game against the Niners was over in the first quarter when Brock Purdy got hurt. So they
right.
really were just going in there like, oh well, we'll we'll walk over them. Yeah, but they had no kind of just moment of adversity they had to overcome. I'd say the Eagles. Their
Yeah.
only loss was to Jalen Hurts' only loss was to Taylor Heineke on Monday Night Football. But outside of that, just walking over everybody. But their pass rush failed them when they needed them. I, as a Ravens fan, we've seen it time and time. Yes, they had no sacks. They had Hassan Reddick. They traded for Robert Quinn. They signed Adama Sue middle of the year. They had Jordan Davis, their number 1 draft pick. They
Yeah.
couldn't get 1 sack. I mean, there was no
Yeah.
sacks all overall, but they just couldn't. They couldn't get to Mahomes, and that's eventually kind of I think what lost them the game. But all in
Yeah.
all, 2 best teams in the league played each other. I think the best team did win,
Hmm.
and not to be that guy, but the Chiefs in what 5? No, not even the Chiefs in the past 3-4 years have as many Super Bowls as the Ravens do in their whole franchise. That hurts. That needs to change next year, Ravens. Hope you're looking, Bishotti. Hope you're looking.
Yeah, I mean, because it's quite clear and obvious that the Chiefs aren't going anywhere. I mean, they lost Tyreek Hill after last season. People thought that, oh, are they even going to make the playoffs? I mean, Bart Scott said that there's no way the Chiefs made the playoffs before the season, and they won the Super Bowl. So they're not going anywhere. The Bengals in our very own division, they're not
Yeah,
going anywhere, right?
yeah,
The Bills are going to come back with a vengeance next season after how they just ended their season. But we got to do something. Todd Monken, I feel like he's definitely a step in the right direction, but getting weapons for this offense so we can be able to compete with some of these other teams. That's what we're going to have to do. One more thing I wanted to ask you about before we get out of here. You kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. That call at the end of the game, that holding penalty. Do
yeah.
you feel like it should have or should not have been called?
Unfortunately, I'm from the school of thought a penalty in the first minute is a penalty in the last minute. It
Mm,
was a hold. My only thing I can agree with is I don't think that was a catchable ball. I don't think Juju would have called it even if he wasn't pulled. But like Kanye West said, I guess we'll never know.
we'll
But
never know. Yeah.
yeah, that's the only. And I just wish James Bradbury never would have said he held them. Just should have. You should be like, I didn't think it was a flag. I hate the fact he said that because even more so, like everybody's talking about it even more so. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, a foul is a foul at the end of the day. Like if you hold a guy, and honestly, I feel like the fact that the ball was uncatchable is a little bit irrelevant because they didn't call pass interference; they called holding. If they call pass
true, true.
interference, then like I could see like, oh yeah, if it was uncatchable, you can't call that foul. But it was holding like well before. I mean, they were barely past
Yeah,
the line of scrimmage when that foul really happened or started. So, you know, They were going to call that, and then also Bradbury, he got away with a couple earlier in the game too.
Yep.
So you're going to be under a close magnifying glass. If you've been getting away with calls, all game, and when it comes down to it, you got to be disciplined, man. You got to be disciplined. So it is what it is. Actually,
Real
one
quick,
more thing I wanted to ask you about.
I have one more thing too.
Sure.
The Chiefs running back is a 7th round pick. All right. They just have it right. They aren't putting all their they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but it goes to show you that sometimes you don't have to take these skill positions that high, like a running back. They had a first rounder inactive because their 7th rounder is that much better than him. Just small things I think the Ravens need to evaluate going into the season, especially in the draft, where you place your draft picks at, and when you use your higher ones or your lower ones on certain type of positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, what did you think about the people talking about maybe banning that QB sneak play that the Eagles are running?
Why couldn't we? I want to steal it. I want to see the Ravens use it. It obviously works. We could use that against the Bengals instead of just Huntley going over. I don't think they'll ban it. Maybe you know what? I can see the NFL doing something about that, just because like if you complain enough in the NFL, you'll get it. Like the Bills fans complain about the OT stuff, and I think with the Niners complaining about the third quarterback, I think they'll get it. But you got to stop. I mean, it can be stopped, but just got to defensively scheme it up. But
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to stop that when you got 2 guys behind Jalen Hurts pushing him, and then you also have Jalen Hurts who squats 600 pounds, and like he can move the pile himself. He probably doesn't even need the help, but it just makes it like a surefire thing if you have like Dallas Goedert behind you or somebody else like just pushing you the rest of the way. So I think that they will end up banning that. I mean, I don't think they're going to take the QB sneak out of the game, but they're going to make it so you cannot push the quarterback in the back to try to propel him forward. QB sneak should be a QB sneak, but
of course we couldn't hop on it. We couldn't hop on. We couldn't use it. So we would have messed it up. We would have fumbled it or something.
We love fumbling on the goal line, and then so. But all right, we're going to go ahead and leave it there for this episode of the Purple Rain Podcast, aka the Purple Rain Report today. Thank you guys so much for coming out to this episode. If you're watching live right now, we love you guys. Thank you guys, the Rain Gang. If you're not watching live, you're part of the hashtag Replay Gang. Thank you so much for coming through. Make sure you guys leave a like on this video and leave a comment down below because we love to hear you guys' thoughts on everything that we talk about. So with that being said, thank you guys again for coming out and watching. I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through to a short Purple Rain report on very little notice, but we appreciate you and thank you and enjoy your Valentine's Day if you are celebrating it. And as always, stay positive, test negative, and
never, ever, ever, ever forget to call God, man. This has been another episode of the Purple Rain Report by way of the Purple Rain Podcast. We're going to catch you guys in the next one.